former Attorney General, former U.S. District Judge in New York, almost 20 years, Judge Michael Mukasey. This is the kind of guy they used to pick. Federal judge for almost 20 years. Now they pick Matt Gaetz. Mike, it is great to see you.
Great to see you. Great to be back.
You are a friend and a mentor, and I appreciate you. And I want your perspective, so thank you for being here.
Okay.
One, what do you think about where we are?
A couple of points about your opening.
I'm very sensitive, by the way. Be gentle.
Well,
go ahead, sir.
Rub on the liniment, because here it comes. Number one, I think the pardon of Hunter was not about the tax case and the gun case. Think about the dates. He was pardoned for all acts that he did beginning on January 1, 2014.
Right before he joined the Burisma board.
Correct.
Yeah.
And when he was running around with Burisma, the Chinese, the Romanians, and Lord knows who else.
And his uncle.
And his uncle. And when he was making comments like 10% for the big guy, that's what it's about.
I don't disagree.
Okay.
I actually said that. But I'll give you a pass. Next point.
I think that, and it protects less Hunter than his father. Because the question is whether he was sharing any of those proceeds with his father. So far as the pardon of Trump, that an ending lawfare from your lips to God's ears, but I don't think it's going to happen for this reason. Actually, for three reasons. Alvin Bragg, Trish James, and Fani Willis. They are state prosecutors. A pardon from Biden doesn't stop state prosecutions. Now, might they be so moved by the gesture that they will stop their prosecutions? Yeah. If the sun comes up in the west, all three of them made it as a basis of their political campaigns that they would get Trump. The likelihood that any of them is going to abandon it now is slim to none.
At least it would have given the Democrats on a federal level an argument to argue about what's right and wrong. Now they have surrendered that because Biden just admitted to what Trump's theory of the case is.
Well,
and so what does it mean? What happens now? What do you think we see? Do you think he gets these guys in? You think he gets Kash Patel? You think he gets Bondi? I mean, Pam looks like you compared to Matt Gaetz. I mean, this is a huge step up from where he was.
it is a step up, and she's got. I'll tell you frankly, she has more administrative experience than I had when I took that job. Without
what she did
passing
at the state level.
On any other, correct, without passing on any other qualifications or whatever. So she's a credible candidate.
What do you think they're going to do? Do you think this is the last time we speak before you're representing me? Because I'm in some reporter's jail?
Oh, no.
No, you won't represent me? Or no, you don't think that's going to happen?
No, I don't think it's going to happen. That's you know, it's a political prediction. I shouldn't be in the business of making political predictions, but it's rhetoric. And it can't happen because there's no court, state or federal, that's going to let it happen.
How can you be so sure? Look what Judge Cannon did. One friendly judge threw out probably the most legit case they had.
That was not about pursuing reporters.
No.
That was about the way the prosecutor was appointed. I filed an amicus, my bias is out here, but I filed an amicus brief in that case supporting exactly the result that she reached. And I think if it had gone up and been argued before the Fifth Circuit, it would have been sustained.
Because? Because
Jack Smith was not lawfully appointed.
Why not?
Because he was not confirmed by the Senate. And in order to be in his position, you had to be confirmed by the Senate.
What is different between Jack Smith and any of the other special prosecutors since they got rid of the independent counsel statute?
There's no difference, but it hasn't been challenged and passed on by the Supreme Court.
So is that an academic argument?
Well, no, wait a second. That's not entirely true. The special prosecutor who had been in the Southern District of New York, whose name is slipping my mind at the moment, who had been U.S. Attorney in Chicago.
And he was challenged?
He was not challenged. But he was confirmed by all U.S. attorneys are Senate confirmed. He was confirmed by the Senate. John Durham had been U.S. Attorney in Connecticut. He was confirmed.
So you think to pick a special counsel, the special counsel should be someone who was vetted through the DOJ?
Correct.
Initially.
Vetted through not the DOJ, but vetted through the president and the Senate and passed on by both. That's the system we have.
Hey, thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget, click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.